All right, good morning. Today we are continuing our practice and exploration of centering prayer. So, a little bit of a recap and introduction for those joining us this morning. The practice of centering prayer comes to us from the school of Contemplative Christianity. It was brought to us by Father Thomas Keating as a way of reclaiming the mysticism inherent in Christianity. And it's a prayer that was adopted from the 14th century anonymous writings called the Cloud of Unknowing from the Prayer of Quiet. So centering prayer is really unlike what we might consider prayer to be, particularly that of discursive prayer or a prayer that really focuses on expressing thoughts and feelings, requests and supplications. And it's really about communion rather than conversation. So it's really about allowing the relationship and the dynamics of the Trinity to pray you. In the practice of centering prayer, we hold an intention, a willingness to consent and to surrender to the presence and action of God within. And the methodology of centering prayer is really quite simple in that we come to it releasing all effort, all notions of having to get somewhere or achieve something. So in the practice of centering prayer, we bring our focus and awareness to a sacred word and symbol. And the sacred word and symbol can be 1 to 2 syllables long, and it's something that we use to serve as an anchor throughout our practice. So it can be something that symbolizes God, love, peace, unity. It can be as simple as the words yes, Abba, Yeshua, or perhaps notions of the divine that are more particular to you and to your practice and tradition. So the practice of centering prayer is really an opportunity to surrender ourselves and our will to that of divine will and really allow a form of divine therapy to wash over us. It's a practice of coming and finding rest and finding surrender to that of the Spirit's presence and action within. It's a way of making ourselves supple in the hands of God and really aligning our will to divine will. So we're going to begin our practice today by just finding comfort in our seats. So I invite you now to really settle into the posture, and if you're seated on the ground, it can be really nice to have a cushion underneath you, or if you're on a chair or on a couch, then I encourage you to scoot to the edge of your seat so that you can have your feet flat on the ground and really allow for your spine to be nice and tall. So taking a moment to settle in here. As a teacher of mine says, the practice of settling into our posture is like building a home to come home to. So let's just take time now to settle into our seats. Beginning to soften and deepen our breath as a way of transitioning from getting here to being here. Letting your awareness fall on the sits bones beneath you. Noticing the weight of the hips as they fall heavy on the cushion. Allowing the spine to settle into its natural structure. Not really efforting to find length here, but just allowing each vertebrae to stack on top of each other. broadening through the shoulders and the collarbones. The shoulders can just fall gently down the back, as if support in the opening of the heart. And releasing tension through the back of the neck, extend the crown of the head towards the ceiling, with a slight tuck of the chin, as if bowing in reverence to the divine before you. If you haven't yet done so, I invite you to close your eyes. Your hands can rest open, palms on your knees, palms down on your knees, or perhaps just gently in your lap. Whatever feels most comfortable, most natural for you. And bringing our attention and awareness to our breath. Noticing the rise and fall of the chest with each inhale and exhale. Allow the low belly to soften and hang heavy. And see if you can bring your inhale even down as far as the pelvic floor. Perhaps you can begin to notice that the mind already feels at ease, just by simply beginning to settle into the body's natural structure. Shoulders stacked on top of hips, head on top of shoulders. And if you find that the mind is still active, you can just simply take notice of the thoughts, the ideas, the images swirling in the mind, and with grace on an exhale, you can just let them go. And noticing any emotions that may be swirling in the heart space. With grace, on the exhale, let them go. And bringing our awareness now to our bodies, making note of any lingering sensations or tensions that may be present in the body, and just allow your awareness to fall on them without judgment and without needing to do anything to get rid of them, but simply notice, and again with grace, you can just let them go. So we'll take a few moments now to bring our attention to a sacred word or image, something that really represents the divine in you. We'll use this sacred word and image as an anchoring point. If at any time you find yourself preoccupied with the swirling notions of the ego and the mind, dreams, thoughts, to-do lists, endless series of questions arising, you can gently recall your sacred word or image as a way of surrendering to the presence and action of the divine within. So begin to imagine yourself sitting on the bank of a swift flowing river. Perhaps you are seated underneath the shade of a large old tree. And you can imagine that your thoughts and your questions and your daydreaming are like the leaves of the tree blowing in the wind. We're not jumping up to catch and grasp at each passing leaf, but instead we allow them to fall into the river and pass us by. Allowing them to be carried away by the river as you sit in gentle surrender, rooted, covered by the shade of the tree. Allow self-compassion to be the pillar of this practice. It is, after all, a practice. We are undoing lifetimes of habituated patterning, but in time, with practice, we find that surrendering our will becomes easier and easier. So I'll take some time now to read a passage from Father Thomas Keating, after which I'll invite us to a series of call and response promptings. Feel free to repeat after me when you hear the promptings, and after which I will ring a bell to note the start of our centering prayer practice. And we'll sit in silent meditation together for about 10 minutes before hearing another bell that will mark the end of our practice. Try not to give it too much thought, and just allow the practice to pray you. From Father Thomas Keating. We begin our prayer by disposing our bodies. Let them be relaxed and calm, but inwardly alert. The root of prayer is interior silence. You may think of prayer as thoughts or feelings expressed in words, but this is only one expression. The deepest prayer is the laying aside of all thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. It is the opening of mind, heart, body, and soul. The opening of our whole being to God, to ultimate reality, beyond words, thoughts, or feelings. We do not resist them or try to suppress them. We accept them just as they are and go beyond them, not by effort, but by letting them all go by. We open our awareness to ultimate reality, whom we know by faith is within us, closer than breathing, closer than thinking, closer than choosing, closer than consciousness itself. We are totally present now with the whole of our being, in complete openness, in deep prayer. The past and future, time itself, are forgotten. We are here in the presence of ultimate reality. Like the air we breathe, this presence is all around us and within us, distinct from us, but never separate from us. May we sense this presence growing us from within, as if touching our spirit and embracing it, carrying us beyond ourselves into pure awareness. We surrender to the attraction of interior silence, tranquility, and peace. We do not try to feel anything, reflect about anything. Without effort, without trying, we sink into this presence, letting everything else go by. No thinking, no reflecting, no particular acts of will except to return to the sacred word when we notice we are attracted to some particular thought or feeling. Let love alone speak the simple desire to be one with presence, to forget ourselves and to rest in ultimate reality. We wait patiently upon God in silence, openness, and quiet expectancy, motionless within and without. We surrender to the attraction to be still, to be loved by God, to just be. I invite you now to repeat after me. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. So the practice of centering prayer is really recommended for 20 minutes twice a day. And if that feels like a little bit out of reach right now, a wonderful practice is to just practice it for shorter increments and then incrementally build your way up to a 20-minute sit. If you are joining us later and practice it on your own in your own time, please leave a comment and let us know how the practice is for you, what sorts of thoughts or sensations may have arisen throughout the practice, and let us know really the felt sense of being that arises at the end of the practice as a result of taking time to intentionally surrender one's will to divine will over and over and over again. It's really that practice of continually laying down our will and taking up that of divine will that is the divine therapy that takes place within us. And from a biblical and a Christian perspective, this is really found in Jesus's continual laying over of his will on behalf of the Father's will to the point of death on a cross. And we call this kenosis, or surrendered living. And it's really the goal of Christians and really of all beings to surrender the preoccupations and the false notions of the ego and the false self for that of something more true and more good and more beautiful, for that of divine will. So take heart and be well in this practice. And again, I'd love to hear from anyone who happens to pick up the practice on their own. Thank you.